So, just want to welcome everyone today to tonight's call. I've got the wonderful Terryann here again, and we're having another webinar around the healing power of conflict. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Eloise Ansell. I am a therapist with the Body Talk system, and I'm an advanced Body Talk practitioner and an instructor of MindScape, which is all about opening and structuring the intuition and taking it to that next level. I'm in the UK. The wonderful Terryann is in Montreal in Canada. Terryann, do you want to say hi and let us know who you are?
Hi, everyone. I'm also a Body Talk practitioner under the umbrella of the International Body Talk System. I've been in this field for, I think, 22 years now. Started with, channeled readings, went to Reiki, then found Body Talk, then found BreakThrough, which is my passion, is BreakThrough. So I'm a senior instructor of BreakThrough, and I'm actually the only one in the world, little old me. So yeah, a little bit of pressure on my shoulders to get this work out there and help everyone see that conflict can be something that is so healing, and really get into some self-inquiry, right? Learning how to inquire within, find out who we are not, right? Who we are not. So that's my world. Yeah.
So honored to have you with us because you're so unique.
Yes, I actually right now I could say yes, I'm very unique. The one and only. Yes. It sounds good, but it's weird. Yeah. Weird at the same time. It's very lonely,
Oh.
I'm not. I don't mean that.
No, yeah, I know.
But it'd be nice to have some friends working through this with me.
Yeah. And if you haven't ever met me and Terryann before, we like to have a bit of a laugh. We're not that serious, so we're going to have a bit of a giggle tonight. But I really hope tonight we're going to start that self-inquiry for everyone who's listening to this as well. This is partly us doing these dialogues is to help all of you guys and start to go on this journey. And if you're interested in it, then you can take that next step and come and take a class with Terryann. So where should we start tonight? We didn't come up with a theme, which was interesting.
Well, I think it's really important to really look at the healing nature of conflict. Even for body talkers, I don't think we quite understand what that means. And I'm not saying that I completely understand. It's a constant discovery of sitting there with that question. It's actually one of the steps in the 7-step system where you actually ask, can you see the healing nature of conflict? So, one of the ways that I often see it is, here's a story that you tell, oh, my husband does so, this, that, or the other thing. And because he does that, I have no freedom in my life. Right. So, it's kind of obvious when you're watching someone say that, you go, wait a minute, it's all about you, actually. And once you get the person to see, well, actually, you don't get the person to do anything. You ask them questions about their assumptions. So they assume it's the husband. I blame him. He's the one doing this. Until he changes, I can't do anything. Massive assumptions. But we got to remember that these rigid ideas of blame are clearly what people believe to be the truth. And when you really ask them, really, is it you? Is it the other person that's limiting you? Is really them? Come on. Oh, if only so-and-so wouldn't do this. I mean, from the government to your kids, to your boyfriend, to your girlfriend, to your parents, really. You're blaming everybody. Well, where's the common denominator? I mean, that's a good place to start, right? I remember, women used to tell me, guys are all crap. Men are just shit. Oops. Okay, sorry. You did say that. It's really, men are just terrible. And I'd be like, really? Well, that's not what I see. So why don't you look at the common denominator? Every guy you've dated has treated you badly, but you're the same person in this relationship. Maybe you need to look at yourself. And if you think men are a certain way and you think they're bad, well, wouldn't you kind of meet up with that energy? Like if you meet up with an energy of somebody who says, oh, I think men are all not nice, and men are they don't listen, men are, well, my favorite one is, how come men can't be more like women? Which is like, what?
Sorry, that's a
what?
Sorry.
What? You want them to be like a woman? What are you talking about? All right, so go from there.
Okay, great. I love it. All right, first of all, we need to frame up breakthrough for everyone, because you're talking about the 7 steps, and some people are probably going, "What?"
Okay.
So, yeah. Do you want to?
So what we do is actually question those very beliefs. So I'm giving you examples of how we blame, because blame victim is a consciousness. So when you have a perspective that it is somebody else's fault, or you could be one of those people who thinks it's your fault, just as bad. Just as bad. There is no blame that actually works out for us. Blaming someone else doesn't work, and blaming yourself doesn't work. Because either way, if you blame someone else, you become the victim. You blame yourself, you're your own victim. So there's a ton of assumptions, a ton of very rigid convictions about life. So in this case, the one I'm bringing up is this conviction that it's somebody else's fault, or included in fault finding is that it's your fault. That is a huge conviction. What we do in Breakthrough is question your conviction. What is fascinating is the minute you question the conviction, the person oftentimes goes, I never thought about it that way. So I should actually start to write these things down. They usually come to the top of my head. But let's say someone says, I will be able to heal if my husband would just listen to me. Okay? All right, so that clearly, once someone says something like that, let's say a question could be, all right, the hardest thing is to find the question, but a question could be, are you saying you're making your husband responsible for your experiences of life? That can be one of the most mind-blowing questions, because the person sits there and starts going, well, I am actually doing that. I'm actually making him responsible. If he would listen, my life gets better, right? So now if you're going to get someone else to listen to you and understand you, then what would be required of that person to do that? If you want somebody to listen to you when you want it, it's very kind of id oriented, right? You want somebody to listen to you when you want them to listen. You want them to understand you in a particular way, right? That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of limitation. So what you're really asking now is that they be responsible for you. So one of the processes that, well, I'm not going to do it right now, but I'm just giving you some interesting questions that you can even ask yourself. Am I asking this person, to be responsible for me? Yeah. Am I asking this person to take care of my feelings? Am I asking this person to understand me? Do I even understand myself? Do you even know what you're asking? These aren't all the questions I would ask, but they're clearly questions that go further into self-inquiry. So oftentimes, the stories that we tell, they've got these convictions, right? These convictions within them that it has to go a certain way. The story needs to go a certain way, right? So it repeats itself. We call that an overreaction, right? Well, one of the definitions. One of the other definitions of an overreaction is somebody presses your button and you get triggered. And from there, you can't take any practical actions. You keep going into a circle. So in the 7 steps, what we do is get a clear story, and then there's a process of questioning that allows you to see exactly what's going on in your story. Because you've never had your camera really looking in on you, right? So in this, the camera looks in on you, and you have to actually answer some questions. And when you do, well, a simple thing happens. You start to look at it and go, none of this makes any sense. Everything I'm saying is just completely illogical. And the moment that illogic is seen, boom. That's called the breakthrough moment, right? They just go, oh my God, and they're free and life changes. So that's basically what a 7 steps is.
Yeah.
So we work with an overreaction. A lot of people also want to know, where does all this come from? Well, it comes from when you were a little kid. So there was a period of time in your life, 0 to 4, where you learned more in that period of time than you ever learned again in your life or ever will learn. So in with the good goes the bad in that period of time. And so we gain these identities. There's nobody can stop this. It's just what happens because the consciousness is undifferentiated. Then at 4, it becomes differentiated, and the kid can say, we all did. No, I'm not stupid. No, I'm not this. But, whatever identity was in there is already created. Then we create a series of belief systems that prove or disprove these identities. So, that we might have been told we were really stupid, and now we're thinking, no, I'm going to be really smart, and we work really hard, we read, we study, we get 1 million degrees, trying to prove that we're smart. But we're still constantly proving the betrayal, which is the unconscious identity that has gone in when we were tiny. So here's this conscious identity. Look at me, I'm so smart. Look at all my degrees. Look at everything I've done. But the minute you're trying to prove that you are smart, you're also proving the unconscious belief, which is, I'm stupid, right? Because you have to prove that you're smart. You don't actually believe you're smart. So there's so many different ways to look at how we're overreacting, that we're living in reactionary living, that we're not actually, living our lives. It's, every time I release the stories, I've had one of the most powerful revelations in my life that there are a massive stories going on. And, every time I had a story, it's like, okay, call somebody up, give me a breakthrough, and then you get through the story. But there's a mass of other stories. And one of the most powerful things for me to see was, oh, there are a ton of stories. Stop listening to them. Just don't listen. So one of my difficulties throughout my life has been to get rid of some really old clothing. There's a ton of stories around it. I'm not going to go into it. There are hundreds. And I was, going to clean my closet the other day, and I said, okay, all my friends tell me, no, you're so good. You're always cleaning your closet. You're always getting rid of things. I go, yeah, I am. But there's a ton of stuff that just sits there and drives me out of my mind, but I won't get rid of it because I got all these stories connected to it. And I had this massive revelation over the last 3 weeks of all these stories. I didn't even notice them. They were just going on very unconsciously. I went to the closet and I went, all right, let's pull this out. It's a wedding dress. Right? We like to keep wedding. And I went, story, boom. Story, boom. And I can't believe I couldn't even carry this stuff out. I'm a pretty strong person. I couldn't even carry this stuff out. It was completely unbelievable to be able to free myself from all those stories. So healing nature of conflict, you better believe it, right? Every conflict I've ever seen brings this massive wisdom and this healing that is, it's really hard to even explain what that healing is because it is so magical. It's not like, oh, let me explain to you the 7 steps. Let me explain to you what happens and what the process is. No, it's magic. There are these questions we ask. The minute you see your answers one after the other, you start going, wait a minute, and your perspective shifts, and you now have a greater vision, much greater vision. You've gone from looking at your life from this tiny little camera lens to, oh my God, I can see my position. I can see 6 other people's position now. Oh my God, was I ever limited in that? Oh, you know what? Who cares? Let me just move on. I mean, we're talking about serious stories too. Stories that verge on divorce. And they get a breakthrough and it's like, oh my God, I have so much compassion for my husband now. Oh, these are the outcomes, this complete relaxation of the system. So yeah, this is really Advaita Vedanta or Ananda Yoga. It's the process of questioning. You can see these guys online. You watch different teachers who question the student. Krishnamurti, Nisargadatta, all these teachers do the same thing. Esther has been very creative because she created a system. So we're more used to having systems in the West. So I really admired that she was able to put this together for our Western mind to help us really anchor. Whereas, in the East, they have a different way of viewing the guru, the teacher. So it's a little bit different. So here she brought this system that can really anchor an individual to be able to see their stuff, right?
Yeah, I love the way that breakthrough. It's like revealing the unseen of the rules that are going on under the system that we're not even aware of, that are just ruling everything. And it's why we keep having the same things happen in life and the same relationships and the same. It's incredible.
Yeah, it doesn't go away till you do something to question your.
Yeah. And then it's so simple because we're not fixing it, we're just observing it, and then it just dissipates. And then the mind goes.
Well, yeah, because that rigid conviction that we hold, you can hear yourself. Or if you listen to a friend, when you're talking to a friend and they're chatting away and you notice there's some rigid ideas, so, well, why don't you try this? Yeah, but. And there's that but that leads to their next story. So you've got almost a stream of stories that actually prove for them. For you, it's like, yeah, I know you're not proving anything to me, but you've evidently proven this to yourself, that because all these happen. So, for example, let's go back to the men idea. So let's say you have 10 stories in your life where you dated a guy and he cheated on you. Each one of them cheated on you, right? This story now validates that men are cheaters, which is completely ridiculous. It's just your personal experience. That's all it is. But you believe your experience is a reality, and you hold convictions about it. The minute you find it, let me question this series of convictions, they start to see, oh my God, it's been my perspective.
Yeah,
and I've been holding that perspective. So as I said earlier, you might find out that you're the jerk, or you've been you'll be very forgiving of that. There's no blame in it, but you might often see going, wow, I've been the one with the closed heart.
Yeah,
I'm the one who's kind of sat there and said, oh, well, if I think men are jerks, then I don't have to get into a relationship. Because what's even more fearful is to be in a relationship than would be to be left. Though consciously you're saying, no, the worst thing is if he leaves me or cheats on me. When you start finding the underlying beliefs, start to see, oh my God, it's actually worse for me to be in a relationship. And once they see that, they go, well, of course that's not true. Of course I want to be in a relationship. And then you see the marriage work out or the relationship work out. And just because they've been holding these convoluted, they're so ridiculous, even impossible to explain how convoluted our thinking is.
Yeah,
we have it in our head and we go, no, that's very rational. I got all kinds of stories.
Great story in the back. So
that's
the thing. We have these underlying belief systems that are so running the show we don't even notice. So we're constantly seeking evidence because the brain wants to make sure that you know that you're not going insane. So it's constantly searching for information to back up that belief system that you're holding as a truth in the world.
I make it a lot
more stuff around it.
I make it a lot simpler than that. That 0 to 4-year-old you, right? You were little. That identity that went into the unconscious, right? So, let's say a kid resisted the idea that you're stupid. The parents said every day, you're stupid, you're stupid. So the kid says, okay, I'm not stupid. I'm going to put that into my unconscious. All right, let's say that's what happened. So that actual identity, because we are not. The idea of being is I am, not even I am me. I just want to be myself. No, I don't even want to be myself because that's already a limitation. I just want to be. That's it. Now that's very difficult for us. We find this terrible. We find this very hard because then we don't know. That goes into a whole other gamut of things. But here you've got this little identity, you as your child self. So what happens is, to prevent us from feeling the wound, we create a system of rules. Okay, so that's the clarity. We don't even need to go into what the brain's doing. It's clear, I don't want to see that wounding. What BreakThrough does is allows you to peel back a system of defenses you've looked at forever. And then you bring the wound to the surface and realize, oh, that's not true. Okay, maybe me as a little kid felt it was true because I was not developed. I wasn't even aware that any of this was happening. And then as the adult, we can actually face it and go, oh, okay, there's the wound. Well, really, that's it? Most people, I find more people giggle at the end. They have they go, oh, funny. They're like, what? And they go, well, how do you feel? And you're like, liberated? Like this whole pressure has come off me. I don't really know what just happened, but I'm liberated. And you can't go back. Once you've let that little silliness out, it's gone. It's just gone.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah. The beautiful thing about conflict is this is the greatest opportunity for us to get to see something. If you don't have any conflict, well, you're not going to investigate. You won't even bother.
I was like, people try and avoid conflict. And it's almost like the conflict is coming up with schemes and things to avoid the conflict. But the conflict's always there.
Well, even trying to avoid conflict is a conflict.
Yeah. It's just like,
how much you're going to be in denial as to whether there's a conflict or not. That's one category of person, right? There are some people who will say, I have no conflict whatsoever, which is fine. It's not, I'm not going to say something, you have to do BreakThrough even though you don't think you have a conflict. That's ridiculous. You want to do BreakThrough when you say, okay, I've got a conflict. I have a great story. This girl once came to a lecture I did, and she was quite nasty. I was having a little hard time with her because it was just so clearly rude and unpensive, her thoughts. So, if I looked at her, I said, if you have no conflict, you can go. It's like this is not to force you to think you have conflict. If you have a conflict and you want to work with it, here's a way to do it. If you don't have conflict, it's really not for you, this work then. Just go off and live your life. Anyway, she was quite angry with me. And I think she was angry with me for many years. It's really interesting. Many years later, I think it was about 5 years later, I hear through the grapevine that she's told someone I know that she finally gets what I was saying. She gets triggered. This is all through the grapevine. She gets triggered, and her husband turns around, who does not know me, nor did he come to the lecture, and says, that's what that lady Terryann was talking about. And she went, what? So that's what she was talking about, that you get triggered and you go into an overreaction. That's what she was talking about. So he got it. So many years later, she called and through a friend to apologize and say, I finally get it. I thought that was hilarious, right? No, you don't need to make someone figure it out. And if they do figure it out, good for them. That's great. They can do some work on it. But otherwise, no, you don't need to force anyone. This work is just for you. You don't need anyone else to do it. That's it's one of the most beautiful gifts is BreakThrough, because you go to the course, you get to be in this class where you're receiving treatment all day long. There's not a lot of lecturing. I mean, this, I find a bit of a struggle talking about this, even though I know it comes out of me quite quickly, but it's a bit of a struggle because it's really interactive, this kind of work. You talk about it, but it's not the same as coming to an intro talk. And by the way, if I'm ever in your area and you can't take the whole course, take the intro. It's free. Just come. There are people whose lives have changed just through that intro talk. Look at this girl who 7 years later, started realizing she's in conflict. Can you imagine, how great that'll be for her husband, right? He's trying to tell her, yeah, but you do have conflict. You do get triggered. And she's going, no, I don't. Can you imagine having a relationship with that? So yeah, it took 5 years for it to download in her system, but it might be helpful for her and her kids just to know that. Anyway, that's a long story, but there are plenty of people who just see things a little differently. Now, in a talk like we're having now, you'll pick up tidbits, but it is nothing like the questions that you're asked during a BreakThrough lecture, not a lecture, interactive. And we make lists on the wall. So you're now able to see your defenses, your conflicts, the way you look at the world. And it's very eye-opening, extremely eye-opening. Doesn't matter how many times you take it. Because you can imagine I've done it, I don't know, maybe 1,000 times. And it never gets boring because it's a constant re-examination of how I see my world. And I love the contribution from the students because everyone's figuring this out. That's the first thing that is extremely powerful, extremely powerful. And then the weekend is you see breakthroughs, but you're also, some people receive them in front of the class, but everyone gets a breakthrough when you watch one. Then the last day you go into groups and you lead them, which is a very powerful process because you get to see both sides. You know, there's one thing if I go and get breakthrough, but it really, you know, has become so powerful that I also give them. So when you leave breakthrough, the thing that all you have to do after is do swaps, right? And there are people all over the world ready to do swaps. And actually, it's so funny, people complain, I want to do swaps. And I'm like, okay, I just sent out an email. Come on, get together. You do these swaps. And by the way, if you're an IBA member, you have access to the Breakthrough Forum. Study it. Answer the questions for yourself. I do it, you know, an hour a day. I go onto the forum and I study it myself, just deepening my ability to question and also asking myself the questions. There are exercises on there if you go a little further back. There's quite a few, my God, there's a lot of threads that Esther has led on there for you to study. She's taking a break right now, so you can't actually get a session right now from her, but you can certainly study, and that is really powerful. The next, yeah, those are basically the things you do, and that's what the weekend is that you get to see both sides, which is extremely, extremely powerful. So being led through steps, going through the process yourself, then leading someone. It's a constant shifting of your perspective and what conflict is all about, etc. It's a gift that keeps on giving. And there are so many people in the world who do it. So you have no problem finding people. You'll find somebody you like to do the work with. Or find somebody you hate. So they
someone you hate trigger you.
Right? It's fascinating. I mean, you know, yeah, I get too excited about how great this work is. And you know, I've been doing it so many years. And I'd say this year I've had the biggest breakthroughs of my life. And they're very different qualitatively as you keep doing the work.
Yeah.
The way you go through a breakthrough shifts, because there are certain steps sometimes we leave out after you've done it for years, and it's always changing. So your leader, the person who's leading you, has to be changing as well. You know, you need to be working with people who are doing the work. And I'm telling you, the quality of life is amazing. It just changes the quality of your existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many times I've taken the class. It's still just incredible. It's we so need this work. It's genius.
It really is. She blows me away every time when we make a little shift in the work. It blows me away. And yeah, and the courses keep changing because I keep changing and I keep doing the work, which might help you understand why there's only one of me left right now in the world, is because, you know, you can't really teach other classes, you know, because this takes so much of your time. So people who teach other classes have more of a difficulty because it's very demanding to be an instructor. I don't want to discourage you from becoming an instructor because it is wonderful, but I don't teach other body type courses because this is where my effort lays. I study all the time. I'm always doing work. You cannot. Well, you can stop if you want, but you would meet certain conflicts that you wouldn't have resolved. So you don't really want to stop. you kind of keep doing it because you clarify more and more what's going on. So one of the most interesting things is to live your life instead of reactionarily. Is that a word? In reaction.
In reaction.
Reaction.
Reaction-tinging.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Is to, a problem comes up and you take practical action immediately. Oh my God. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, instead of, oh my God, what am I going to do? This didn't happen. Da, 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 da. Like, I'm just going to go to bed, or you know, I'm not saying everyone goes through it that way, but taking a practical action is not common. Most people are in coping mode, in suppression mode, and they're not taking practical actions.
And there's so many layers to this. I don't think people even notice it. It's like sometimes I have a client come in and they're so overreaction to everything. Their fight or flight response is just overtaking everything, and they just can't see it. They're not ready to hear it either.
Yeah, and well, what you're describing as well could be problematic, because if someone is in overwhelm, it wouldn't be the first thing I would do is do a breakthrough.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just the way you're describing it. So I would first work with them to reduce the overwhelm and support them, then start.
Yeah. I wasn't taking them into breakthrough, but yeah.
You know, all the belief systems. Because sometimes that looks like, you know, somebody's totally overwhelmed and all their stories are coming at them and they can't deal with anything because the system is fried. So, yeah, I wouldn't go in and do a breakthrough.
No, but I was trying to use it as an example of like where people sometimes are, and I think it's that first step of beginning to acknowledge that you are overreacting day to day.
Yeah, that's a difficult one for a lot of people, you know, because they'll have all kinds of convictions and connotations of what an overreaction is. So, you know, when I do start a breakthrough with someone new, not in the class, because the class obviously clears a lot of things up, but let's say somebody called me up and they've never taken the course, they don't know what it's about, but really would like to do a breakthrough. What I often do is say, all right, what we're going to do is book a series of 3 sessions, because they may not get through the whole 7 steps the first time around.
Yeah.
So I may need to work with, because there's a piece in the steps that is about taking responsibility. And yeah, that's really important that they do take responsibility for their actions, because the moment they do that, they're completely liberated from, you know, the blame and the guilt and all of this. And then we can examine the belief systems. But oftentimes we'll need to go through that piece first, let it process, then they can work a full breakthrough. So they're just different ways of dealing with someone's resistance. Now, that doesn't mean you can make them do anything. You cannot make a blamer do anything. They must have enough will, enough volition to actually take the step. So yeah, I'm just kind of clarifying a little bit more. When someone does not acknowledge it, that, you know, it may be something that you can't do with them. Yeah, you may not be able to work that through with them. So you have to work bit by bit to support them seeing, because we don't know how traumatized someone is. You know, we have no idea, you know, what happened in their childhood. That's why actually people ask all the time, can I apply breakthrough to my clinic? Well, yes, you can, but it takes a lot of work, which means you need to, if you're going to become a practitioner, you have to do exactly the steps it takes to become a breakthrough instructor. Then you'll have the confidence to actually charge. That, of course, doesn't mean that certain parts of the principles, that when you're working with body talk, that they're not going to come up during sessions. That's fine. But you wouldn't sit down and actually charge straight out for a breakthrough session after you take the class. It's going to take quite a bit of study, much like you have to study for body talk. Anything else you do, you need to do some studying and figure some things out before you go ahead. So breakthrough requires a little bit more, because this is self-work. This was not designed to go and treat people. This is work you do for yourself. And it makes a lot of sense, It's something that people call me and say, I want to do one session. Well, don't bother. It's like, don't bother. It's like, do the 3, come to a course. This is something you got to dedicate your life to. Well,
not every.
I'm exaggerating, but
yeah,
hyperbolic. But it's working with yourself. It's not like one session and you're going to resolve your conflicts in your life all in one session. And it doesn't matter how many you do or how many you don't do. It's constantly using the work is what I mean, right? So somebody who does a treatment or takes the class, work with it. Don't stop. This benefits you. And people sometimes don't realize that. And they'll say things like, well, but I want to use it in my practice, or I can't afford to get sessions. These are ridiculous commentaries as far as I'm concerned. This has nothing to do with breakthrough. Breakthrough is get up, do it, share with people, or work on it yourself. You're not going to get through your stuff as well as you would if somebody was leading you, but at least you're doing it. At least you're questioning your own assumptions. Get on the forum. This isn't a question of money. It's not a question of, that kind of, I can't find someone to lead me, or, no, just go do it. You have a lot of resources. So, yeah. And those of you who are body talkers, go on there. Just get on. And if you're not, here it says, Terryann normally does the intro in person. Yes, I do. I do the intro in person, and we work together. Yeah, maybe one day we'll create it where I'll have a chart here. And
maybe we could do it online one day.
Yeah, and then everybody could be on. But so far, I haven't gone that far. So we'll do it in person first.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah.
No questions really popping up. Yeah. Can we talk a little bit more about the kind of the frame of the class and the weekend?
More than what I said, there's an interactive
We've
talk.
got the interactive talk on Friday night.
The next day is all me leading steps. And the Sunday, usually the Sunday, the third day, is the students lead, then I lead, then the students lead, then I lead. Depending, I try to do as many breakthroughs as possible in the class so you have a good experience, and I intersperse, but for everyone to get a breakthrough.
Yeah, everyone will get one.
Yeah, we need people to exchange. That's one. 2, you need to be in the driver's seat to really see what's going on, and that shifts your view on the world. It's like, really, people learn very quickly that when someone states an assumption, they buy into it as well. And that is fascinating to see how you will buy into someone's assumption about life. You got
that happened to me, and
that's kind of sympathizing. But let's say, okay, somebody says, I feel abused, and the other person who's asking the questions will say, will sympathize and believe that, feeling abused is a really bad thing. When the assumption is they feel abused, it's not real, but you're buying into it that it's real. It's not real. It's none of it's real. It's all a story.
Yeah. So is everything real? Even
if there's some difficult subjects like being violated, being actually raped, those kind of things. But you wouldn't work with somebody who's been attacked or violated the day before. This is not an overreaction you're dealing with. That's survival. But if somebody's raped 30 years ago and they're still reacting as they did 30 years before, you've got an overreaction going on. So there's some kind of belief system. And when you start working with someone like that and you don't make any assumptions, you can free this person from a trap they've been living in for 30 years. But some people go, yeah, but they've been raped. Like, okay, but they're still living the rape over and over again. Why is it your assumption?
That's not great. Yeah.
Raped should suffer the rest of their lives? No, why should they? Just like a soldier who comes back, yes, he might be traumatized, but we can get him out of his trauma. I mean,
Yeah.
this is so weird about us.
Yeah, there is this assumption that once something bad's happened to you and you've had trauma, then somehow you're holding on to that forever, and it's going to, you know, ruin your life. And it's like,
and it's definitely not true. You know,
no.
when my father was attacked, beaten to a pulp, you know, I actually went to pick him up at the hospital and walked right by him because I didn't recognize him. His face was so brutalized. And you know, one day a few years ago, I was like, remember when you were like beaten up? It traumatized me. And he's like, oh yeah, I remember. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, the guy doesn't even remember. It's like,
that's brilliant.
It's not that he forgets things. He's one of those people who remembers everything. He's like, oh yeah, but it didn't have an impact on it.
There's no charge.
He was like, yeah, whatever. You know, I was stupid. He just goes, oh, I was stupid. I went down this wrong street. I knew something was going to happen. I really shouldn't have done it. So he's like, okay, it was a bad choice on my part, and I headed right for it, and I accept responsibility. He doesn't feel guilty. He doesn't guilt the other kids, you know, drugs. He's like, oh, whatever. Okay, that was just a dumb choice. He's not sitting there going, oh my God, I was so dumb and I shouldn't have done this. No, he's here.
Oh, woe is me. Yeah.
Yeah, I find it interesting that some people can actually, you know, go through something terrible and has no impact. So it tells you that it's all in our perception.
Yeah,
you know?
and when we see that even with kids and things, like you can get umpteen people that have the same trauma, and then some of them are like, it's wearing it as a badge, and then others are like, oh, did something happen?
Exactly. I remember I did a breakthrough intro talk, and my nephew, who was 6 years old at the time, said, may I come? And I said, of course you can come. So he comes in, this little 6-year-old, unbelievable. And a lot of the women were discussing how anger is a terrible thing. So I was questioning them to find out, and I looked over at his little face, and he was like this. And I went, what's going on with you, sweetie? Like, what do you? He's like, I don't understand what they're talking about. And I said, well, they're saying that anger is a bad thing, and I'm questioning them. And he says, I said, what do you think? Is anger a bad thing? No. I said, well, what do you do when you get angry? And I get angry, and what happens? Nothing. You feel angry and it goes away. And the whole room just looked at him and they went, right? And I said, well, there it is. You know, I've been questioning you, and here's the kid who, you know, completely understands that anger is a movement of energy.
Yeah, it just moves.
He didn't have the words for it, but he completely just thought everybody was being weird. It's just anger. What's your big deal? It's nothing. Or it is something, but it's not a big deal. And, you know, they had their own breakthrough with this little kid.
Yeah, perfect.
They all saw, oh my God, this is crazy. You know?
It's these stories that we have in our heads.
Yeah.
They imprison people.
Yeah, they certainly imprison me. Every one of my stories keeps me locked into whatever. And the minute that story drops away, I'm like, oh, it's just ridiculous, right? Just like, you have no idea how happy I am that I've cleaned this closet.
Yeah, I can feel it. It's great.
There's stuff from year dot. Well, but that was my grandmother's grandmother's and still in good condition. And then I'm like, get rid of it. Just get rid of it. It was so every story just, it was like the Red Sea parting, and I could see clearly.
So freeing. And who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
be clear, like, because this is like an ongoing thing, because there's always going to be another layer.
Well, that's an assumption. I don't want to say that.
No, that's
good. What if there isn't? What if there, you know?
That'd be great. But I was like the freedom, the feeling of freedom. My assumption is always that there's more freedom to be had. Well,
no, because there's no limit to freedom, is there?
No, so it could keep evolving. Or
no, there's no limit to freedom. So it's not more. There's more freedom to be had. It's just why, you know. In this, I remember it used to bother me, this layer thing, but recently, why are we assuming there's another layer?
Yeah.
And what layers are we talking about? Breakthrough is basically an unlearning of things we've learned.
Yeah.
Okay, so you might say there are layers of unlearning to do. But the moment your mind works in a different way, it doesn't matter if there's another layer. You're gonna be able to unravel it yourself. We're here on a journey, so like there's a lot to do.
Yeah, there's a few more days to be.
Something comes up as a conflict, that's fine. But at least you've got a way to be dealing with it. But thinking there's always going to be another one sets you up. I've seen people who say, all right, there's got to be more that's wrong with me. And I'm like, well, that's the exact problem you need to unlearn, is that there isn't any more. You're already perfect. If you would just see that you're already perfect with your warts and all, you're going to unravel a lot of stuff instead of just sitting there going, oh, there's got to be more. Well, there might be, but there might not be. And that's going to be great, right? It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Imagine. It's wonderful. Wonderful to even just the ideas of self-acceptance, even if it's goofy or silly or whatever. Because we did experience it. We were little kids. We played. We got angry. While we were playing, we worked really hard and we sweated it in it. We did all darling. That. We were with our little friends going, oh, you're my friend and I love you. And 2 minutes later, I hate your guts.
Yeah.
We did all these things and we were fine.
Yeah.
Well, we started learning that's not okay.
Yeah. There was no charge to it. It just happened.
Yeah, it just happened. And then your parents said, don't say that. And you're like, why not? I hate her right now.
That's mean. Don't do that.
That's mean. There was this article on Facebook about this boy who had ears sticking out because no cartilage.
Yeah.
He's sticking out ears. And he gets an operation. And, just so the bullies won't bully him anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was reading some of the commentaries and I thought, this is hilarious, right? Everyone's maybe thought, oh, this shouldn't be like this or that should be like that. And one girl writes, kids are so mean. And I was just like, wow, that's really mean to say. So if she's saying that about all kids and they're mean, well, okay, so really are kids mean? Are you being mean now by saying that? You probably disagree that you're being mean. So I started thinking, are kids actually mean or they just observe? Like if a kid walked up to me now and grabs my fat belly and goes, do you have a fat belly? And okay. Does that mean? No. It's an observation. Oh, you have double chin. Okay. You have some gray hair here. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. You have a funny looking nose. You have a whatever. But actually kids
beautiful teeth.
Kids actually don't say you have a funny looking nose. They say you have a big one or
it's got to be.
They actually make an observation. So anyway, I was thinking about this kid who's got the ears and they're saying, oh, you have sticking out ears. And then think of the spontaneity, right, from a child.
Yeah.
You're like Dumbo.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dumbo's good.
Dumbo's flying. So I'm like, why do we teach kids that this is a criticism instead of this wonderful, creative endeavor? I mean, I sat there and I had my own little breakthrough watching this going, well,
brilliant.
It was my assumption that that's a criticism when it's, you have, okay, here, no cartilage. I have a sticking out ear, no cartilage. Dumbo, yes. Why, great. How creative is that? No, but we turned it into this kid needs to get an operation.
Yeah, he needs to get it fixed.
Yeah, and now we're going to judge all these little children, make it massive judgment of little children, of little kids, that they're being mean when maybe not. Maybe this has nothing to do with anything. I even think back to the schoolyard, kids used to call me fat and all kinds of things, And now I look back, it's like, well, I was the little fatty. I was a giant kid too. In grade 4, I was bigger than the 6-year-olds, and I was also fatty. In those days, the Greek mothers, they overfed you, and they thought it was a good thing, and they fed you too much, and they thought it was loving to feed you, so we were fatty. Okay. Why should we cry about it? Why didn't I go home? Well, you're fatty. either enjoy it or don't, or stop eating. Like, choose something instead of, I'm sorry they called you fat. What was that about? Why do we even do that? Anyway, I don't know how we're supposed to treat kids, but I'm just laughing that our immediate assumption is that the child is being mean because they make an observation. That's not to say there aren't actually mean kids who've been brutalized at home and go out. I'm just making a comparative that we can't assume, and yet we do.
We're always making assumptions.
We're making assumptions, and then we're actually, again, the way I started this whole talk was we put our feelings, our experience of life into the hands of someone else. So you can see these themes running through society. So if I feel bad about being fat, then I need the whole world to make sure they ignore that I'm fat. Oh my God, this makes no sense whatsoever. This is the conflict we go through, instead of, no, you either accept yourself, do something about it, figure out what's wrong with you, figure out what's going on. It may take a lifetime to figure it out. It's going to take a whole lifetime. I've seen my body go up and down, still have a lifetime of figuring out. Then you go through menopause and you go, oh, now what? Now what? Now what? Right? So, yeah, we just need to keep taking practical actions, right? And when we're not, boom, overreaction. And you have something you can use to take care of it, rather than it's you who's responsible for me. You're responsible for my feelings. You're responsible for my emotional state. You're responsible for whether I can get a job or not. You're responsible. I don't know about you, but have you seen clients come in and blame bosses for why they don't have a job? And you sit there and go, but if this is all you're thinking about, I would fire you. No, you don't say it out loud. Yeah. Try to support them to be able to get a job. But oftentimes, the complaining, the whining, no, you're not going to be the first person who someone's going to hire for a job. They're going to pick the person who actually will do the job.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I think most people want that, right? You have somebody fixing your house, your toilet, you want somebody who's going to do the job. Somebody come in and say, well, it's my break now.
Yeah.
But you're supposed to give me lunch and coffee. Yeah, but you've only worked for 45 minutes. Yeah, but the law. Yeah, you're...
Who are you going to pick?
Yeah. I think I segued a bit there, but...
No, that's fine.
I really apologize, everyone. I'm just a little...
It's one of those days. Perfect. It's a great chat. Oh. Anyone got any questions? Put them in the chat as we go. Yeah. But it's I think doing this work, you become more of an observer of yourself, obviously, with the self-inquiry. And then you're noticing your assumptions. You're noticing when you're kind of telling a story to yourself.
Well, you do. And then one day it comes and you realize, oh my God, do I tell a lot of stories? I would listen to my stories and go, okay, there's a story, let's go do a breakthrough. And I'm telling you, I had the biggest revelation 2 weeks ago, and it's still unraveling inside me, where I just saw there are so many stories, and those stories stand in the way of my own functioning. Yeah. And as soon as I saw them, they let go. Now, are there other ones now? I don't know. Like you said, we don't always see what's there. So until I have a conflict, I'm not going to know, right?
Yeah.
So I had a massive conflict, absolutely massive. And it was so interesting because it was at the conference.
Yeah.
I made an appointment with Paola Ramos, the girl who does the cardinal things, and I was just so attracted to doing this, because the biggest thing that she has is that really impacted me was that the inner child is arrogant and tells the parents what to do, and I'm like, whoa, here, that's something I need to really deal with. I'm always telling my mother what to do and how to live her life, and I'm always stopping to take care of her. So I mean, this is something I really need to deal with. So, I set up the appointment, and oh my God, like the most massive arguments start happening between me and my boyfriend. So I was like, okay, here we go. The session's on, right? And I get to the session, really beautiful, did some amazing work in areas I'm not going to share their personal experience, but in areas I did not even anticipate. And Paola even said, she said, the reason you had an argument was to bring down your defenses completely. I was like, oh, wow, that's
so nice. Yeah.
So I go off and I leave, and another group of arguments ensues. And I'm like, well, now what's going on? So that's when I got to talk to Esther and do a breakthrough. And it was just the few questions she asked me, and it just opened up all of these stories. And in my personal case, because my intuition has been the majority of me, it's been the most best part. My intellect was about this big. So she had me do an exercise. And I said, well, my intellect's like this, and my intuition is everywhere. It's just everywhere. Yeah. And she just said one phrase. So would you say, Terryann, that your intuition is filled with stories? I go, oh, yeah, my God, yeah, it is. Oh, my intuition's... So I could see that the intuition would boot up my stories, and that it would throw me into overwhelm.
Yeah.
The moment I was overwhelmed, I had no intellect to anchor me. So I've been doing particular exercises to help the intellect be anchored, and it's transitioned everything. So now I'm like, when my intuition comes in, all these stories come, I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Great.
No, so that's a very small description of what occurred. It was very, very, very profound.
Beautiful.
This talk is coming after a massive shift in my understanding of what this work does. Right?
Because we always look at things like being like a strand, like the Gestalt theory, where there's like one bead on the necklace, and if you take that one off, all of them fall away.
That's right, same kind of thing. So when you're working with one belief system, it's like a thread, and it could, sometimes you could work with one story all you want, right? It's fine. You can do one. People get so involved in the story, and like, don't worry about the story, just let it rise up. And it's you don't have to think about a story either. The story that you require will come, and that's the one you work with. Yeah. And it's okay to work with the same one over and over again, because there's no way there's one trigger. There's probably several in your story, because the scene keeps shifting and moving, so you can get several triggers. And all of that it's never about the story. Never.
Yeah.
So once we shift that perspective, it's boom, thread, and it can unravel a ton of stories. A ton.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you have one and it unravels a little situation, and you go, I didn't see it go everywhere. But, when the work is really deep, it goes through everything.
Yeah.
My I don't know if the listeners know, but I experienced lead poisoning, and it's been extremely painful. I've been living in pain for 5 years, inability to walk. It's really traumatizing. I was basically awake a couple of hours a day for about three years, and all I would do is scream in pain. And I've had a lot of shifts with Body Talk this year and several other treatments, but this last breakthrough has released my body so entirely. And I have been asking this question for 5 years. Why am I so rigid in my body? Why am I so rigid? And it needed, like you said before, the layers needed to work through, and that rigidity is going away. And it's I can stand up, I can walk. I mean, I'm not walking around blocks or anything yet, but even moving my arms like this, it was impossible before. Just to be able to sit and do this talk just 8 months ago took every bit of my energy. So I would sleep all day, do the talk. I've been working at 6 a.m. I'm working till 10 tonight, and this was all with breakthrough. No. Okay, I'm being hyperbolic because I did a lot of things. I did. But this last unraveling, it came from the mind and the stories that were contracted in my system that I couldn't even see, which Eloise brings up so often for me. You can't even see it. No, you can't. You can't see it. And all you need is the will to want to see it.
Yeah.
If you don't have that will, don't even bother. You know, and when I like saying it that way, but why would you even do this work? Well, usually it's because you're desperate.
Yeah.
I'm desperate. I'm desperate to make this change. That's it. I'm desperate to, you know.
When I was a life coach, I always used to ask people if they'd be happy to have change at the beginning of every session.
Yeah, of course.
And now I've started asking it in sessions.
Yeah, would you be happy to have change? And how many times the answer is no.
No. And it's like, well, why are you here?
Why are you here?
Yeah.
You know what? It hasn't happened often in clinic, but 2 times since 1995 I've been working. So 2 times someone has said, I'm not going to do that. And I remember just looking, I said, well, if you're not going to do it, there's nothing I can do for you. So you'll have to go. What? I said, well, there's nothing, I can't continue reading. You got to go and figure this out. You have to go do it on your own. It doesn't matter. You don't need me. But figure out somehow that you're going to do this. And it happened again today. And I was like, well, why stress over this? Why struggle? This isn't my conflict. This is your conflict. So decide. And she's trying to explain to me. I said, no, you have to decide. I can't make you do this. No, there's nothing to do. You decide. Do you want this changed or not? Wow, it was tough. Yeah, it's great. So I've seen a few people that just go, no, I don't want to do breakthrough because I don't want to face myself. Well, you're not really facing yourself.
No,
you're actually releasing yourself and dumping lies about yourself. That's actually what you're doing. It's unlearning every lie you have told about yourself that you think is true. So people are so scared because they think, well, if I open this up, I might see something terrible. No, you've already thought about all the terrible things.
Yeah, it's all the nice stuff that needs to come out now.
Yeah, you've pretty much done all of that, and every terrible thing is already manifesting itself. Or, as we say in Breakthrough, you're comfortable in your uncomfortable zone, right? No, don't get me out of my zone. I'm comfortable here. Yeah, but it isn't really comfortable. No, it's crap, but
it's really spiky and uncomfortable and I hate it, but I know it.
And I'm being, like a woman who's being abused, by her husband. It's like, well, I love him though. Yeah. So, well, yeah, you don't want to see why? That's okay. Nicola, you're quite cute with your little commentaries there.
I know, she's cute.
Okie dokie.
Oh, okie dokie. Yeah, has anyone got any questions? We've been talking for about an hour now, I think. So it's been good exploration of breakthrough. Yeah, I do know Nicola.
Yeah, well, come to Breakthrough, Nicola, and you'll see that it's not.
Yeah.
You'll even just see that assumption about yourself is not even true. You'll just come out going, oh my God, I can really have this much compassion for myself? Oh my Lord. It really is wonderful.
It is. It's so exciting. Every time we talk about this class and every time we start this class, I'm just like, because it's like, it's just this release, this letting go of all of the shit that we're holding on to. And we're not able to live into our potential when we're hiding from the world and hiding all of our gifts and stuff behind all of this.
All of these basically lies.
Yeah.
That we so strongly think are true, and they're just not.
No.
She made little pictures of poopies.
Oh, yeah. Nicola's sending us pictures of poo.
Yes, come and you will dump all of that in the class. How about that? We'll just
get a toilet in the corner.
And we'll let the hotel or whatever deal with the aftermath.
I was just thinking, actually, we're going to be at the Hilton in Brighton on the seafront, and sometimes they have chocolate classes on for us, so it does look like this.
Hi, Gabriella.
On the carpet. Yeah.
Gabriella, saying goodbye.
Oh, bye.
Oh, my love, I think we've kind of explored everything.
Yeah, I think we have explored everything. So for those of you, I know there's lots of people around the world listening in and probably joining in, and I will pop a link up where you can find all of Terryann's dates for all of the classes and all of the talks.
And around the world, and if you
around the world,
have any questions, you can write.
That wasn't the one I meant to send, but yes.
I can't answer you immediately, but let me know. And the website has all of the courses. So there are quite a few courses. There's one in Rio, Guyana, the UK, Denver. Is that everything for this year? I think, yeah. And Montreal. One in Montreal.
Denver, Montreal, Brighton, Rio.
Guyana.
Yeah, got loads going on. It's great. So yeah, so I've just popped the link up where you can find all of Terryann's dates. Those of you who are in the UK, Terryann, we are planning a class in October in Brighton, sunny Brighton, she says, hoping the sun comes back. So we're doing the introductory talk on Friday the 27th of October between 7 and 9. And then all day Saturday, all day Sunday is the breakthrough class. So anyone can come along to the talk. If you come to the talk, you'll probably want to stay for the weekend. So you might want to put it in your diary anyway. And on the Monday, the 30th, we're going to be doing a practical class. So Terryann, am I right in thinking now that we're just going through the 7 steps over and over again just to help anchor in it?
Not over and over again. We go through each.
Oh yeah, we go through each one
individually. And it doesn't make sense to you now, but the way we're going to look at it will give you one, you'll pretty much know each step. You'll be able to at least have, you can make up cue cards after you leave that class. So you'll have each step, because the most important thing is to know your protocol off by heart to be able to ask the questions. So you'll have the questions ready, and you'll know, and you'll get to practice and get to pose your own questions so that when you leave, you can do these trades, okay? And it's so great to be on the other side, not just be receiving the steps, because once you're on the other side, you're like, wow, this is an intricate way of viewing things. So both ways helps you see how much you assume. Whether you're receiving a steps or giving a steps, leading a steps, you see how much you assume. So yeah, beautiful to do the practical.
Yeah, if you can, stay for the Monday and get that extra day in.
Yeah, and usually everyone says to me, you should make this part of the class. We're not going to do that because Monday sometimes people work, so I don't want to suggest that to Esther. But if you can take off the Monday, I can almost guarantee you are going to want to do it. You can't register for it with online. You can register with us. But even if you wait till the Sunday, that's fine. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can always decide to stay on.
But most people get angry with me and say, you should make this part of the course, and you should have told me how important it is. So to, kind of circumvent a little bit of anger, just let you all know, yes, you'll probably want to take this class, okay? That's my promise to all students, is to let them know how important that class is and how much they want to take it. They love it. They love the work. It's really a good time. Yeah. And it'll let you be able to leave and work, sharing with others, trading steps.
Yeah, you can trade with them.
Yeah. And you'll be able to, you can't charge for it, but you can obviously work with a friend or a family member. If somebody asks you, they're in conflict, and you say, hey, I know the system, let's try it out. You could do it for people. It won't be, obviously the formal charging situation is very different. So you wouldn't want to do that.
And if you are a therapist already or working in some capacity, you don't have to be using the steps, but the knowledge and the awareness that you'll gain from going through that through the weekend really is incredible.
Transformative. Yeah. people find it's just a whole new ball game. Even the belief systems, when you're doing, let's say, a body talk session, it's completely transformative. They see things in a whole new way. And do so, yeah.
So
well, I thank you so much for being here and listening. And Ben, Zach, Fidelma, Nicola, it's so great.
Yeah, Laura, everyone that was on. So you have people appearing and disappearing. Yeah.
Yeah, just
thank you to everyone who was on an hour and a half before we even started.
Yeah, and we'll do it again maybe before. Okay?
Yeah. So just to say, the early bird for the Brighton class that we've got coming up in October, the early bird is the 28th of September. So you've still got a couple of weeks to register and get your payments into us before we cross that threshold. So you can save yourself some pennies. But I'll put if you're watching this video afterwards, I'll put all the information below.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you all for coming. Any questions, drop me an email, info@eloiseansell.com, and I will come back to you with any answers to any questions that we have. But thank you to Terryann for your time today. Always a pleasure.
It was always a pleasure.
Yeah. And thanks to everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.